Hey guys, welcome back. So we have the situation where we created a new page, but when we try to see, it doesn't actually show the image. So let's just go back. First of all, whenever you have a situation like this, check the database to see what kind of data was saved. So I'm going to the database on the pages to see what we saved. Now, the good news is the user ID now is being saved, which is awesome. And let's go ahead and see what. So we don't have a featured image here, that's true. We don't have description or keywords. The slug was auto-generated, that's good. But the important part is inside content, what was saved. I want to see that. So let me go to edit. Okay. Content is here, and it actually saved the image as data image like this. So it should actually show. Now I think the reason it isn't showing is because we have that function that adds root to every file. So what really happened here is that the file was saved as base64. So which means we don't have our function running there. Excuse me. And then it's putting root. So let's just confirm that. So this here is an image. Now if I right click and say inspect, so this is on the page itself, this is what I get. So as you can see, there's root here and then there's data image. So let me just try and edit this part. I just want to remove the HTTP up to where it says data, just that. So if I remove that and save, you see the image now actually appears. Okay, that is awesome, right? Cool. So at least we know the problem. Sorry about this cough. So in the edit controller, we need a few things here. We need this one that extracts images, and we need the part that removes the root as well. Okay. Now, yeah, so we need extract. So keep in mind that we add only once. We can edit many times, but we add only once. So this process must absolutely happen. And when we are adding, we don't expect any images to have root there because this is the first time we are creating this. So we don't need that. We also don't need to delete unused images because this is the first time we're creating the post. There shouldn't be such images. So let me just copy this to the add controller and put it right here, like so. Now, if you've noticed in the edit controller, I don't put this user ID thingy here. That's because we don't want to edit the user ID unless you want to edit who edited the thing last. If you want to add that, you can always add a new column in the database to show edited by, and then you put a user ID there. But this is all we need, but don't forget we need to instantiate the class as well. So let me put that here as well, like so, and that should solve our problem. So for now, let's delete this page and start again. So I'm going to say delete, and let's delete that one. Okay, so let's add one. Again, it's our shop. We don't need to put any of these. Now you can put that display image over here. Matter of fact, let's do that now. So there's edit view here in the admin. Is this the one? Views, admin view. I want the edit view. That's this one here. What I want to do is copy the... it's easy to get lost in here. This part here, display featured image. I want to copy this to the add.php view file. So let's go a little down here. After this, let's paste that. All right. Let me move the whole thing back using Shift Tab. Now remember that when adding, we don't have row here. So we don't know what this is because it's never been added before. So we delete those two like that. Okay. Now the default will be the first one here, which is yes, I guess, which is nice. There we go. Cool. So display featured image, yes. Let's do our shop again. And in the content, as always, let's just add that one image, which I had added earlier. Where is it? This one right here. Okay, cool. So I just want a title here. Our shop is cool. Then let's put the appropriate header, something like that. Okay, so let's hit save. Cool. And now we can click on this to see it. And there it is, see? But I don't want the featured image on this particular page. So let me edit and say no and hit save here. Boom. Okay. Now if I refresh, this is what I get. Okay, so of course this is not the best image, the best design, but you can see what you can do here. You can take your time and design whatever page you want. Now we have our shop here, but it's not part of the menu here. Okay, so you can add it to the menu. Now the reason why there's this option, these pages don't go directly to the menu, because there will be times when you don't want that. You may want a page to just be linked from another page and stuff like that. So that's up to you how you want to handle that. So if you want it here, you go to the menu part and add it to the menu and put the proper slug, which is right here, and it will link to this, just like we linked these other two pages. Yeah, cool. All right, so everything seems to be going well. Let me see 1 second here. Contact us, let me edit this. Oh, so it is one line. Let me do this and hit save. Let me see if it will respect that. Let's go contact us. Okay, so it does respect that, and that's good. Okay, so this actually concludes the pages plugin. So that's how you put pages on your website. So with this plugin alone here, so far we've reached, you can actually make a viable website. The only problem is you'll be making static pages. You may want a version of the website where you can type in a new post and put it, and it will go directly to the page that you want. Okay, like for example, you can have a blog page over here, and then whenever you post something, it will go to the blog, and then there maybe you can have categories and stuff. So it depends how you want to deal with it. So what we'll do is we'll create a posts plugin as well, but first we need a categories plugin, because if you noticed here, there's missing categories down here. Let's see. If I click edit, there's a column for categories down here that's missing. So we need to be able to make a page tick some categories here. Now that will help us. That's how we're going to match the pages to the posts, and then whichever post will have the same categories will show on the same page. That's how we do it to make things easier. Okay, so categories there, and then about the author here, it's good to have that author thingy going on here. So let me show you how you can have extra information loaded for every row here. So let me close all these files over here for a second, and let's go back to basic pages plugin. Let me close all these folders here. So I want us to go to the plugin.php file here. Now going down here, you will notice a after query thingy here. Now after query is for when, after you run a query, the content comes here. Now you can look through the content here, row after row, to do some extra stuff. Now you need to be able to know which stuff to do where. So you need to give each one of these queries an ID. So if we go back, if you remember very well, let's go to database.php inside core. If I go down here, let me zoom out a little. you will find that there's this static value called query ID. Now, what it means if something is static, it means even when I create a new instance of this database, this value remains intact, because when it's static, it means it's part of the original class itself. It's like part of the structure of the class. So if I give it a value like 2 and then I make another instance of this database class, it will come with that value. So it will remember that value throughout all the instances, unlike these other values which are very specific to a specific instance. Hopefully that is making sense. So maybe let me explain this a little bit, just for those that do not understand well. So I may have a class called database like we have now, right? So every time I say db is equal to new database, like that, usually, okay, this db variable now contains an instance or a copy of the original class. Now what happens is, with this copy, every value will come with the default value. So you see here, like whatever this value is 0, right? So when I make an instance, it will come, that value will come as 0. So if at some point I say db to grab this value, like affected rows, if I do this, the answer will always be 0 just after the instance. But then let's say with this same instance, I change this value to, let's say, 5, right? And then I go ahead and make a new instance down here. That's db2. Now the thing is, the new instance, because it's copying from here, the original, and not from this instance I made, the value here will come out as 0 again. It's like starting from scratch, because this is a new instance of that, okay? But if a value is static like this one, it means I have changed the original source. So which means if I make a new instance, that value will actually be 5 now. So I have a course on OOP, so if you want that, you can check it out in my playlists. Okay, so not to be sidetracked here, what I was trying to say is there's this query ID here, and if we go down to after query, which is right here, that's the filter, the after query filter, you see that it puts everything in one array here, and including query ID. And we use self because it's a static value instead of this. So self query ID. And then immediately what happens is query ID, just after being used or put inside this array, it's erased. So this query ID is used once, and once it's used, we erase it in readiness for another query. So then once it's used, it goes into the filter, and then the results come out here. So what this essentially means is that we can mark specific queries. So let me go back to basic plugin.php. So what I want to do here is mark my query. So the query I'm looking for is the one with just a second here, where we are reading for the list here. So I just have to follow the money, right? So this is in the view, the admin view. There it is. So at this point, I'm just looking for the query that actually queries that list. And when we are on a list, this is the view part, right? The view, is it the view or is it the list? The list is actually here. This is the query that does all that. So the query itself is here or there. But as you can see here, when we say page query ID, we actually did give it an ID. So that ID is get pages. Now this can be anything, really. It can be any text here. It doesn't matter. It's just keep it organized. That's good. So we added it to the static value in this manner. So which means we can expect to see get pages at some point in the after query. So here, all I have to do is say if, okay, if data because everything is inside data. Query ID is equal to this one right here. Then let's do what we're doing here. So let me put this inside, and like so. Okay, so if it's get pages, then let's do something. So what can we do? Now we can run other queries in here as well. Okay, so what I will do is say db is equal to new core database. That's where I can have access to the database. I won't have all the cool features from the specific model, but at least I can query. So here I want to do a query. Now it's a single row, so I will use from db, I will use get row as the function. So let me just make sure that function actually exists, because I've made versions of this framework, many versions that don't have it. Okay, so get row is there. That's good. It just gets a single row from a query. So let's run the query. So let's look at what we're trying to achieve here. We want to know who the author is, and what are we saving in the database here? In the database we save the user ID, so which means we will have user ID, and we can use that to query the user's row and see which one has that ID and get that row. So here we can say something like user row be equal to, and then here I can say select all from users where the ID is equal to this particular ID, limit it to one result. Now this is not what limits to the result. This just tells MySQL that the moment you find one result, don't bother trying to look for more. It saves time. But otherwise, whether I put that limit 1 or not, I'll still get one row, because even if I get 10 results, this function will just return the first one. So I just say limit 1, just not to punish it to continue searching even after it's found its result. So there we go. So we can say if user row like this. All right, so if that was correct, now we need to add the result to the original result, which is this one. So I'm just going to grab that original result, and it has this key over there, so let's put that in the key, and then let's put on this particular row, right? Let's put, so as you can see, it's going into row here. Now if I modify row, it means nothing, because we are returning data here as a result. So this row will be discarded from within this function. So it doesn't benefit us to edit this. We have to edit the original, because that's what's being sent out from here. So that's why we're doing this instead of just editing row directly. So we're adding one more column to row, and this column I'm going to call it user row. Let me just do that here. That's what I'm going to call it, and then I'll say it's equal to whatever the result of user row was. So we're adding an entire object within this column, right?